we're sitting on a political nuclear bomb that is going to go off. The mainstream media is very attached to the establishment, the old school presenters that used to host your news. And have a look at some of the pictures with people that they're in, dining with them, staying very close to them. I don't want to mention too many names, I don't want to get myself into trouble, but I think your audience will know who I'm talking about.
I feel like I'm turning into a conspiracy theorist, but, there's something there.
The problem is, JJ, these conspiracy theorists are being proven often right. The British public want the truth.
Wow. Alex Armstrong, thanks for joining us today. You had our investigations editor, Zach Garner-Perkis, on your show to talk about the Keir Starmer pedo-asbo scandal.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that whole thing?
Well, first of all, can I just say, incredible work by Zach, so all credit needs to go to him on this work. When I first read the story and then watched his report online, I was gobsmacked. And seeing the victims' accounts also just it really did something to me. And we had a whole show prepared, JJ. We pretty much scrapped our anchor part of the 10 o'clock and said, let's get Zach in and let's tell the biggest story. I said this is what I was calling it online, the biggest story you haven't heard of yet in Britain. Yeah. And then lo and behold, front page of the Daily Expresso the next day, of course. And then everyone's been talking about it ever since, which is incredible. I think it says something, doesn't it, particularly about the Prime Minister. This man who is constantly taking credit for being the guy who has solved grooming gangs, who has been tougher than anyone on it. Yet when things like these pedo-asbos, as they've been dubbed by Maggie Oliver, come to light, well, he doesn't want to take ownership of those. Yeah. That was not across my desk, even though his name is obviously on the foreword for this report about it. And I think this is the kind of telltale about Keir Starmer, is that he wants to take credit when things are going really well, but as soon as the buck's got to stop with him, he's nowhere to be seen. Yeah. And I think that's damning for a bloke who constantly sold himself to the country as this man who was greater than good, as this moral entity that was going to be the man to clean up British politics. But aside from that as well, I think it's quite damning and what's been going on in Britain for so long. Yeah. People have been asking questions for so many years now. Why did so many thousands of men, so many thousands of cases just go completely unprosecuted? What were the reasons behind it? And we're starting to understand, by the great work done by people like Zach at the Express, we're starting to understand why. And as that picture builds, I think it looks worse and worse and worse for the Prime Minister, who was Director of Public Prosecutions at the time, and it looks worse for Labour as well in many of those areas. I think we're sitting on a political nuclear bomb that is going to go off as this national grooming gangs inquiry gets started. I think it's going to be bad.
Why do you think? Because even now, there's some politicians who are, I was going to say hesitant, but it's more resistance to a full-on grooming gang probe. What are they afraid of?
Well, yeah, it's a good question. I think that I'll point to maybe one or two things. The first thing is that there is a large Muslim population and a large cultural elements to politics, and particularly when it comes to the Muslim population and it comes to particularly the Pakistani population, which are a big voting bloc in this country and are becoming a very organised voting bloc. They have been working and relying on the Labour vote. Labour have been relying on their vote even for quite a while now. And I think that builds a lot of hesitancy. And we're seeing, the Maccabi Tel Aviv stuff, the fans being banned, the Jewish fans being banned. You're starting to see a pattern emerge where politicians and authorities are almost working in collusion. I don't know if I want to use the words legally, but there's pressure coming from these politicians that are influencing our authorities as well. And again, I think that's going to be a big part of the narrative. Why would one person want to hurt the other person? The authorities are meant to hold politicians and other people accountable. Yeah. But what it seems like to me, JJ, is that actually there's a long piece of string that connects all these people together. And the evidence and the accounts from people like Maggie Oliver seem to show time and time again that piece of string's pretty long. Yeah. And I think it goes all the way down into communities, families surrounding those people, and all the way up to the top.
But even in mainstream media, we see it. GB News cover grooming gangs extensively. So do the Express. We've been leading on these investigations. It was 3 months after we first reported about London grooming gangs that the BBC finally decided, oh, actually, there's something in this. We're going to report it ourselves.
Yeah.
Why are the mainstream media? Because surely they're not attached to any communities. Mainstream media should. We always hear the mainstream media are biased. You know, that's the big criticism of them. So why are they not jumping on these stories the way that some of us are?
Well, I just want to say, I'm not going to blow my own trumpet, but that night that Express story launched, I was on that topic straight away. Because again, I'm born and raised Londoner. I'm a born and raised Londoner. I know people who are friends that I grew up with, girls, and in fact Muslim girls as well, that have been alleged to me that they've been part of these grooming gangs. Right. So I've always been very mindful about this issue. The mainstream media is very attached to the establishment, to the political establishment of the country. I think you've got to look at some of the, let's say, the old school presenters that used to host your news and have a look at some of the pictures with people that they're in, dining with them, staying very close to them. I don't want to mention too many names. I don't want to get myself into trouble, but I think your audience will know who I'm talking about. And then you start to say, so if you're mates, you know, and are you gonna write a story and do a big headline on your best mate that takes you out for dinner, that wines and dines you, that gives you these big lines, and you'll know, being in the media, what happens is the government pick up the phone to you before you're about to break something big that they don't like, and they'll go, hey, listen, if you run that, we're not going to do this with you next time, or you're not going to get access to this. And that is exactly what happens. And those establishment figures are, in my opinion, I believe, they're more than happy to play along with that. Well, that's not what this is all about. The British public want the truth, and that's why GB News has done so well, because actually we're not beholden to them. We don't want to be in bed with the government. We want to tell the truth to the British people. I'm very committed to doing that. And I think that those media establishments are actually just in the pockets of government, and they're in the pockets of their mates, and that's why those stories never get heard.
There's now light on all of these cases.
Why am I not surprised?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised to hear it. We just have to look at what went on with or was alleged to have happened with the Labour Together scandal, right? You look at the smear campaign. That's what I'm calling it. I call it a smear campaign against very, very good journalism, because they exposed this massive 700 grand donation scandal, JJ. This is not a small amount of money. Gabriel Pogram did a brilliant job exposing this. And then what happens is we start to see evidence to show that actually people working inside a political party were, in my opinion, and I'm sure they would refute it, trying to build a case to smear those journalists off and to say, don't look at them. And they were doing good work looking at big Labour figures. And this is before, the rise to power of this latest version of Labour Party, right? Labour Together, a fundamental sort of, Blairite sort of thinking group that wanted to get Starmer into power and 100 other or so MPs to back him up. So I think that says all that you need to know.
Did you see the story about David Lammy trying to have huge archives of court cases deleted, so we can't keep going back and looking at things? Because if people want to go back and try and draw the dots between certain cases and, well, why did this happen, what's happened, that's no longer going to be possible if all this gets deleted. Why do you think Labour and Lammy were so desperate to remove all this information?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of public interest all of a sudden in what went on in the past, isn't there? I
feel like I'm turning into a conspiracy theorist, but there's something there.
The problem is, JJ, these conspiracy theorists are being proven often right more than they're being proven wrong lately. So I'm starting to get my tinfoil hat back out as well. I don't know about you, but yeah, I guess it's a really incredible thing that they tried to do, and I think that again they've paused it for now. Or it seems like they're rethinking the whole thing. But a very journalists scratching their heads. These like Labour supporting journalists going, "What on earth are you thinking? You told me you aren't these dictators, and we backed you in the election. We've got really nice pieces about you. Now we look like idiots, right?" But it seems to me that there's an active attempts. If you were to be a conspiracy theorist, put my tinfoil hat on for a second, you would feel like there's an active attempt to cover things up from the past, wouldn't you? And perhaps a worry about what might be coming in the future, a worry about inquiries, a worry about new governments coming in that might want to demolish what was left of these old parties that are dying, and finish them off once and for all by exposing more. That's the way I would view it. Obviously, I don't know what's in these court files, but I do know from speaking to journalists quite often that they are deeply concerned about the behaviour of this government when it comes to things in justice. And David Lammy, he was the standing up, we want reparations, man of the people. 1 minute, JJ, he's man of the people. Next minute, he's like, let's take away some of your court rights. Let's get rid of those documents. Let's get the shredder out.
Yeah.
And I just think, to me, it all stinks a little bit, doesn't it? And I think your audience will feel like it stinks. And whether there's anything there to see or it's just, routine, which it might very well be. I don't think it is, but it might very well be. We'll find out, won't we? We always do.
Well, I hope we do. Whilst I've got you here, actually, if you're enjoying what you're seeing so far, head to the description. There's a link in the description right there to take you to our premium offering. For the first month, it's only going to cost you £1. It's going to get you exclusive content from here at the Daily Expresso and also from the Daily Express. Now,
it's a great
Alex,
deal.
It's a fantastic deal. It's a great deal.
Yeah.
Migration feels out of control at the moment. It certainly does. I look at the Tories, I look at Labour, neither have been able to control the border. Why do you think that is? And again, I'm not pushing conspiracy theories here.
I'm just going to permanently put the tinfoil hat on in this interview, I think. No. You said you feel it's out of control. Let me tell you, it is out of control. And the British public know it's out of control. It's when British people are polled on this issue, it's the top issue they talk about. A massive amount of people. I go out almost every weekend. I get to do this great thing. I get cameras to come with me and I get to meet real people across Britain. I went out to Southall, which is one of the most ethnically diverse places in the country. About 3% of the population there are white British people. And I wanted to ask them what they thought of Sir Jim Ratcliffe's comments about Britain being colonised. Fascinating. You go into these places with a conception, I'm going to get, no, he's a racist, he's this, he's that. Actually, legal migrants coming up to me from different backgrounds, Hindus and from everywhere, saying, he's right. There's too many people. Had this woman, she was speaking in broken English, bless her, and what she said to me was, she said, there's too many languages being spoken on the bus, right? She felt uncomfortable, right? So when I'm hearing this from legal migrants who have, who have said to me they came to Britain because they loved it, they wanted to experience Britain, right? That's when I know that there is something broken there. It's not just white British people having a moan. It is people of all shades, all colours, all political backgrounds who are saying is enough is enough. Even Labour voters think it's too much. This is the problem that's happened time and time again, though. As go back to maybe your original point, which is why has this not been solved? And I actually think it's not this conspiracy to destroy the culture of a country. And I do think that's a bit wild, it's a bit out there. And some people will point to things and say that's the conspiracy here or there. And they're fair, and I understand why they feel that way because it hasn't stopped. But I think it's to do with GDP. And I think it's to do with countries like ours that are struggling to innovate, struggling to grow because we've strangled ourselves with regulations, needing to find a way to look and stay competitive on a global spreadsheet. Because that's what these governments are now. They're corporate spreadsheets to sell to these big businesses and say, look, we're a growing country. Move your business here. Hire people in Britain. That's what I think they're trying to do with this. Of course, as a result of that, what you get is countries that have got rich cultures and heritage across Europe seeing themselves sort of mould into one culture or be multiple cultures instead of one homogenous culture, which is what I think good cultural assimilation is all about. One homogenous, not multiculturalism, because that doesn't work. One homogenous culture, I think works really, really well. So I think it's to do with money. I really do, and I think if you go back to the sort of the principles of Thatcherism and Blairism, I think you see that pattern there. I think that's where it starts, and it doesn't end. And as soon as we realise we've sold everything off, what can we do now to grow the British economy? Well, we can just bring more taxpayers in. That's also backfiring now too.
You talk about legal migrants saying to you, there's too many languages being spoken, too many people here now. It's the same story over in America. Black voters, Latin voters, brown voters voting for Trump in record numbers, saying we all did the right thing to get in the country legally. We've signed the right paperwork. We've saved enough money in our bank accounts to apply and come here as illegal migrants. And then they're frustrated that people are able to jump across the border and come in and get jobs and work. And then you look at the ICE protests, and it's middle class liberal white women stood there placarding saying, ICE out of Minnesota, which is odd that they'd built barriers in Minnesota to stop the ICE coming in. So they wanted to enforce borders in Minnesota to stop ICE from coming in, but not build borders around the USA.
They've also got people going round checking people aren't ICE people.
Yeah.
Which is funny because that's exactly the thing they don't want. The hypocrisy's off the scale, mate. It's off the scale, isn't it? It's hilarious.
I've got to get you to do your Trump impression because you do a very good Trump impression.
I will do it.
You've got to do it.
I will do it. I don't know. Watch them go.
We love ICE. Fantastic organization. They're going to be huge in the future. We've got to make sure we look after the ICE people. The little aliens are next, okay?
It's a little bit better after I've had a couple of bites.
Fantastic. Good grief. I've lost my thought now.
Sorry, you're asking about immigrants in America and ICE. Yeah.
Well, what's the craziest migration story you've heard?
Craziest in what context? In like a crime or?
Yeah, okay. I think a crime. I think my one was that there was the guy who a foreign illegal was over in Britain and he'd been done for rape, but he couldn't go back. So he had kids here, and actually he'd been done for raping a child.
Yeah.
And the British judge said, we can't send him back. He's got kids here.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, what?
Well, I mean, immediately, the first thing when you say that, I mean, illegal migration is always the craziest one when it comes to migration, right? Because one, it's inherently like, people get the fight or flight mechanism when they get injected with something that they didn't want. That's how it feels to the British people. We can't really run from it. We can't actually. We're not allowed to fight it. Therefore, what do? Something just weird happens to your body, doesn't it? It just spasms out, and you can't really relax because that's how it feels. They're not welcomed into the country by British people, and when they commit crimes, it's even more of a slap in the face because we've been so generous. A case that comes to mind immediately is the chicken nugget case. Straight away.
Yes.
It's the chicken nugget case. Bloke can't be deported because his son has a certain type of chicken nugget he can't eat. I know the case is deeper than that, and there's all but it's just ridiculous. JJ, it's just mental, isn't it? And I just, we laugh obviously, but this is happening every day.
Yeah.
And some of these people are horrible people. I'm not saying all of them are, by the way. I mean, I'm sure there are some genuine refugees and genuine people amongst them. But I think the vast majority of them are economic migrants. They're men. Where are the women? Where are the children? It's such a small percentage.
Yeah.
And I think that's a slap in the face. British people are fed up with it. They want something to be done about it. Even the Labour Party, and Shabana Mahmood, to her credit, is doing better than previous governments have done. It's not far enough, unfortunately, because she will never be able to do the deportations that her party won't let her. Even if she didn't really want it, I'm sure she doesn't want to do that. But it's just nasty for British people. We don't want it.
I think one of the things that stings us as a nation the most is that, as you say, if someone enters a country illegally and then they commit a crime, they should be. The common sense would say, well, you entered illegally anyway, so we're going to chuck you out. You entered illegally and you committed a crime, we're definitely chucking you out. And if we go to another country legally, my wife's American. If I go to America and commit a crime, they're not going to say to me, oh, well, your wife's American, so you can stay. No. Commit a crime, I'm gone.
You're not allowed back in.
Yeah,
right?
precisely.
By the way, if you go back in, you're going to prison. Right?
Yeah.
It's serious over there.
Yeah.
And respect to them for that. Same as Dubai. It's the same as every reasonable country around the world has strong borders, because if you don't, the public turn against you. It's the first principle of government is to protect the people. And when the borders are porous, people are just flooding in, and there's actually a channel for us, unlike other European countries. There's water that separates us, and we've got one of the most powerful navies, well, used to at least, powerful navies in the world that could turn these boats around and just put two middle fingers up to Macron and just say, sorry, mate, sort your beaches out, stop letting them come here. Of course, we've got to do things our end, not create incentives for it, but people just go, what are you doing? What are you doing? This is like the most simple thing to solve. And because this illegal migration stuff has been it's been the fuse for the power to kick off all migration. I actually don't think we'd have a bigger conversation about migration today if the illegal migration crisis wasn't happening.
Yeah,
I really do, because it's hit at something very raw, and people feel like it's being done deliberately at this point.
Yeah,
you do.
You talk about Dubai there as well. Another place where I've lived. I've worked there for 5 years. Dubai have stopped paying for their students' tuition if they come and study in the UK, because Dubai says Muslims are coming to London and getting radicalised. We're not going to have anyone coming over there and coming back to the UAE. And yet we're like saying, no, there's nothing to see here. England's great. This is a wonderful place. No one's getting radicalised over here. What must other countries be thinking when they see what's going on here today?
I actually spoke to a great commentator from the UAE. Their jaws are on the floor. They have been for years. There's a famous video. You must have seen it, JJ. Of I think he was a minister at the UAE.
Yes.
In the UAE, a long time. Maybe a foreign minister or something.
Yeah.
Speaks fluent English. Incredible guy. And he just says he was warning us years ago. And people just laugh. Kind of a bit like when the Germans laughed at Trump at the UN when he said, "By the way, you better sort your energy out now because you're going to be screwed if you don't."
Yeah.
Well, they're not laughing now, are they? And same for us when it comes to that warning. We aren't heeding it, and the press did a terrible job again. The establishment press didn't want to talk about this. Did not. The same reason the grooming gang stuff didn't want to be spoken about. It's damaging to community relations. All that nonsense has bred this very dangerous version of radical Islamism as we call it. And it terrifies Muslim people as well, by the way.
Yeah.
Actually, the people who are often the most subjugated by Islamism are Muslim people. They are in their communities. I said, if you speak out about this or you report this, they will go after you. We just saw in the case of a man who converted to Christianity flee the country because he couldn't be safe here anymore.
Yeah.
What does that tell you? So it is terrifying that Muslim countries are telling us it's bad here and that they won't send their children here.
Yeah.
That should be a wake-up call.
It should
It's not
be.
enough though, is it?
No.
I keep saying this. When is enough going to be enough?
Yeah.
I don't get it. Get it.
Crowborough, we've seen lots of protests there.
Yeah.
The more, I almost feel sorry for Starmer at this point because
It is getting that way, isn't it? It is getting that way, JJ. Yeah.
he comes into power and everyone's saying there's too many asylum seekers in hotels. We want these hotels for ourselves, for our parties, whatever. There's too many asylum seekers in houses. So he says, okay, I'm going to move them to RAF bases and army bases that are being disused. And now people are saying, we don't want them in our RAF bases in our backyard. Put them somewhere else. So what can you do now?
Yeah,
what else can you do?
Deport them. That is the only answer. It's never going to end politically for any of these parties until the deportations start, right, en masse, and that is the reality. Nobody wants this in their area. They are terrified of these people coming here. People don't know who they are. They're not vetted. Look, I went to Crowborough. And I've been to Braintree, where there's another base there. I've seen the conditions around the base. I actually spoke to a resident who lives on the back of the base, literally by the fence. He's got a wife and kids. He sent me footage, and I'll see if I can share this with you, JJ, so you can play it for your audience. I'm sure he wouldn't mind. Of his doorbell at night, and blokes walking onto his private territory, his private land. Right, men, 4 or 5 men. Some of these men, in the middle of the night, they shouldn't be out, but they are. Right, they're allowed to go out if they want to. And he's got 2 kids, 2 young girls, and he has to go to work. He's terrified. He's angry and he's terrified. That base is not secure. There should be police watching these guys. They should be at least tagged and monitored until we know if they're safe. And we're not even doing the basics. We're not even doing the basics to protect people around those areas. So I don't blame them for the way they feel. They have every right to feel that way. In fact, I would be just as angry as they are, frankly, JJ, and I'm sure a lot of British people are. The reality is this will not end. The British public will not let this go until those people are deported. That's the reality.
All right. Well, let's get personal now about you.
God. What have you dug up, JJ? This is what it's been building up to this whole time. Get your tinfoil hat ready. I'll get mine out. Come on, let's go.
Well, I'll go gentle to begin with. How did you end up at GB News?
Yeah. Well, I've had like the weirdest career journey of my entire life. And I want a trigger warning for the audience.
You were a rent boy, and then you were...
Let's not go down that story path, all right? Listen, I get messages about that quite a lot. Not about me, other stories, just to be clear. No. No, so I guess from a young age, I was quite interested in politics, weirdly. I don't know why. I did not like the Blair government growing up. I was always quite anti-war. Felt like the war in Iraq was always a bit of a ruse to begin with. So it was never really... I guess that sort of got me into it and interested in it. And after Blair, when I was getting a bit older into my teenage years now, like late teens, You're going back to a little while ago. 35 now, just for the record, in case anyone's wondering if I'm 12 years old.
Well, I think you look older than 35. To be honest.
Good. It's about time someone actually said Alex, why is there a 12-year-old on my screen? So anyway, back to this. So I was a teenager getting involved in it, and my parents moved out of London. My mum and my stepdad moved down to the south coast. No buses. I mean, a Londoner, raised there, buses, pavement. Take for granted. Didn't realise that wasn't available around the rest of the country. Trains running, not like for £1.50 or whatever they were for a kid back in those days. Going to a 20 quid a day college fare. So I started this campaign about getting transport subsidised for young people around the country, so it's reasonable. I don't come from a wealthy family, so I had to carry a job and go to college at the same time. Thought that was quite hard for me at that age. Didn't really have weekends or anything. That got picked up by the Labour Party in opposition.
Wow.
Really, really interesting. And they said, look, why don't you come and work with us and build some policy with us about how we can help young people and have a subsidised policy for young people across the country. Well, and so I basically went and worked with the Shadow Secretary of State for Transport at the time and built this policy with them for about a year. And that's where my politics started. And in between that time, I was going on the BBC, Channel 4, ITV, did loads of different interviews, and that's where the politics side started. So that's where it all began. And I was very young. Then I got into university, was still doing some of this work there, but I was starting to question my decisions. Starting to try to read a bit of philosophy, try to understand what tax meant, because you don't understand tax at all. You're just an ideological young person, which you see replicated all over the country today still. And so at that point, I was like, oh, I'm paying quite a lot of tax on this one job I have.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got nothing left at the end of the month. Oh, I've got this massive student loan. What's that going to mean for me? Oh, and I'm reading philosophy. So I was starting to understand the world a bit differently. Same time, this by-election's going on up the road in Eastleigh, which I think people remember, famous by-election. UKIP were sort of dragging the Tories in a one direction, and it was a really big moment for people back in those days. So I actually got invited by the local Conservative Party chairman. He said, why don't you just come out with me for a day, speak to some Conservatives? Right. I was the Student Union Debating Society president at the time, so I was always open to speaking to people. And then from that moment, I think I just started moving to the right. Okay. And I was like, actually, really proud of the work I did getting this policy. And I still believe young people should have some sort of travel, because it is unequal across the country. Don't even define what an adult is anymore. Still believe in that policy if it's executed correctly. But I'm definitely not a crazy socialist that I was. Okay. And then I got out of doing media and TV and politics, and I actually just had a career. I realised that mistake meant I was too young to be involved in politics. I needed to live a little bit. Okay. And then, sorry, I know this is dragging on, but basically, skip ahead 10 years. One of my friends at Talk TV, who happens to be Sophia Wensler, who was on the newsreader, reached out to me and said, hey, look, we really, really need someone to come and cover this slot on Talk TV. And that's when it all kicked up again. I got another taste for it, and I haven't stopped since. Okay.
So what you're saying is Labour radicalised you for the right.
Labour did what I think the Home Office did to Robert Jenrick.
Yeah.
Right? It just pushed me further along to the right. So, that was what it was.
And now you're one of the big stars at GB News. Do you feel safe there, job-wise, just because they have gotten rid of some of their biggest stars periodically?
I don't think so, no. I'm being completely honest with you. I'm sure my boss would be wincing if I'm saying that. But look, I also understand, I'm quite an honest person. I hope people realise that. But I also understand this is the industry now. It is moving really fast, really rapid. But, GB News has also got a lot of responsibility to Ofcom, to the regulator, to make sure you don't say the wrong thing. Sometimes you're treading on eggshells around things. And I think, it's very easy for people to forget that when they're watching us, that it is a business. As well as trying to deliver you the most hard-hitting, truthful version of the news, which is what we always aim to do, and I think we do that better than anybody in Britain on air. And but is anyone's job safe in the media at the moment on TV? I don't think so. I think this industry is moving fast. The world is changing quickly. I just get on. I always say this to my team. I treat every show like it's going to be my last show. And actually, hopefully that comes across in how a bit crazy I can be on it sometimes and how a bit nuts it gets, because I'm just going to have fun with it. Could be my last show ever.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, So, I guess you're right in some respects to ask the question, but it could be a multitude of reasons. Maybe myself, maybe them saying, actually, you had enough of it, you're gone.
Are GB News and yourself obsessed with Muslims? That's something I hear often.
Yeah,
you guys talk about Muslims more than any other news channel.
Yeah, it's fascinating. People say this. People don't realize my stepfather's a Muslim. I'm probably the only person. Well, actually, I am the only person I know that's visited Iran and been to one of what I would say is the most oppressive Muslim country in the world, maybe aside from Afghanistan in some respects. I don't hate Muslim people.
Yeah.
I don't hate my own stepfather,
Yeah.
It's bonkers for people to even suggest it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we haven't had a conversation about the compatibility of elements of Islam in the country and actually some of the underlying problems that like the grooming gang stuff, which might relate to Islam. We'll find out. There's lots of evidence to support that there are some men that weaponize that religion and use that to excuse their behavior, which we have to address. And good Muslims will agree with that. And they'll say, actually, and moderate Muslims will say, of course, we have to accept that maybe these men were radicalized and used their religion as a way to commit those crimes. And I think if we don't have a national conversation about it, it will only backfire even bigger than it is today. I don't think we're obsessed. I think we just speak about it because it is something that is worth discussing, and the BBC and others don't want to talk about it because they've got their community cohesion thing in their minds.
Yeah.
And actually we just care about the truth.
Now, not GB News, you personally.
Yeah.
Why do you hate the gays so much,
Nah.
Alex?
What's so funny, Jake? So funny. You should ask me this. It's actually really funny. I was out. I was actually filming a Palestine rally. Right, get this. This is absolutely hilarious. This is off camera, unfortunately, because it would have been great TV if it was. And and this woman comes up to me. She obviously must have seen me from doing something on digital, or maybe she tuned in to watch TV News. I don't know. And she just went, "You're homophobic." And I said, "So that's really interesting. Let me just ask my boyfriend quickly and see what he makes of that." Absolutely, God, just shut her up.
Yeah.
Face went completely red, just disappeared. And I said to my camera, he was facing the other way, getting some bloody B-roll. And I just said, "I wish you'd got that. That just would have been an epic moment."
Yeah.
But look, I also say this to people. I think that many gay men make their entire personality about their sexuality, and I think that's really boring and dull, and I don't think that they're not interesting people. And I think actually those are the sorts of people that are forcing this agenda that most gay people don't want. There was a movement when I was a kid, by the way. It was called like Drop the Label. Right?
Okay.
It's called Drop the Label, and it was all about removing labels from society.
Yeah.
These lot want the labels on them. They want to walk around with a badge saying, "I'm gay." They want to walk around with a flag tied around. No, just go away. Right? We wanted the society where no one cared what you looked like.
Yeah.
I was really fortunate to grow up in that time, actually, where no one really cared about your race, your religion, your sexuality. It was the best time, and now it's gone the exact opposite direction from these lunatics, I think, on the left. And actually, some of them on the right as well, by the way, who just want to label everybody and bucket them and make them bad, good. I just say, ditch all of that. Your merit is based on who you are as a person.
Yeah.
And that should be the only thing you're ever judged on.
You're absolutely right, mate. Totally agree with you. But it is a shame that you hate gay people.
Yeah, it's
That
a
is
real shame. Yeah, real big shame. Especially for my dating life, yeah.
How do you feel about some of these ex-GB News people who, when they're fired or they quit, then start saying, "Oh, it was horrible anyway. They're terrible. They're mainstream media." And then
I've got a great deal of respect, first of all. I'll just say this, for a lot of my colleagues, and I didn't work with all of them, by the way, and a lot of them before. I get a little bit hurt. I've been attacked by some of these people, and some of them I've been friends with, like genuine phone calls, like, "Give me advice, how do I do this?" Right? Let's go out for a drink, go and do this. And then all of a sudden, one day, I'm getting attacked on X by them.
Yeah.
And I find that really upsetting and disappointing because they're people I respect. Whether or not they should have been sacked is not my decision. I'm not at liberty. I'm not the CEO. I'm not the board. I'm not the manager. I'm not Ofcom. I don't get to make these calls. I don't get to decide how GB News is run. I just get to go on air and do the thing that I love doing. And so I find that really hard because I don't think there's an awareness. It's either there is an awareness, and I think those people there is an awareness by them, so they know how things work in the media, and they know how things have to work for Ofcom, and they know how things work in a business. And I feel like it's an attack to try and demean other people who they understand, even though they understand the rules of the game.
Yeah.
They aren't willing to give that leniency back to them, even though they would have been doing exactly the same thing when they were at GB News. You know, it's great to have that. I'm glad so many people have their own platform now. I'm seeing that space getting so exciting. So nice to be talking to you here when I haven't got the sword of Damocles of Ofcom hanging over my head. But that's the way the broadcast media works, and they all know it. And I find that very hard to swallow, because I know and they know. And I don't want to start media spats with people. It's boring.
Yeah.
It's not interesting to people who actually will hear, because they want to have conversations about the future of our country, which is what I want to do. I don't ever attack another media person unless it's very, very warranted.
Yeah. Would you attack Jimmy Savile?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well,
just check.
I think that's warranted though, JJ. I think that's warranted. That one's warranted. I'll own that one. All right. But some of my colleagues, asked, I wish they'd pick up the phone. They have my number. Right?
Yeah.
If they want to chat to me anytime, or they're concerned, or they think I've said something about them, because there's a lot of that goes around.
Yeah.
Well, this person said this about you. That person said that about you. I hear it all the time. I'm not here for it.
Yeah.
I don't care. I think hopefully if you speak to people at GB News who work with me, I think I've got a good reputation.
I think you
with people
do.
I've
I used to work with you over there.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did work together.
Yeah.
Even if we disagreed, we would have a laugh, wouldn't
Yeah,
we?
absolutely.
And that's how it should be.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't have to be enemies about political disagreements. It's crazy.
No, we don't. Now, look, GB News, you're smashing BBC News 24, you're smashing Sky News.
Yeah.
What is it about GB News that is resonating with the audience so much?
It's a really good question. I
Thank
think,
you.
Yeah. I don't really think about it very much, JJ, because we're just doing it. We just go. Well, first of all, I think the first thing is that when you turn GB News on, and because we have all the other competitors on the screen, because everyone's seeing what everyone's doing. That's just how the industry works, right? And you see what they're looking at. I think one time what really stood out to me was there was a funeral of like some old president, or maybe it was Jimmy Carter actually, and it was just the pictures for like an hour on a hearse of Jimmy Carter that wasn't moving, nothing was going on, no one was speaking, it was just some commentary. It's like, do British people really care about that? On the other side, on GB News here, we've got a breaking news line that they're not going to bother reporting because it's not within the the establishment line. And you just think to yourself, well, no wonder why when they flick over and they see, oh, what's that? Why am I looking at a picture of a 90-year-old man who's sadly passed away? I'm sure, great man, but who cares in Britain? Sorry, who cares? Right? Let's hear. British people want to hear British news, and that's one thing. The second thing is that we actually do get. I'm at liberty to give my opinion on stories, and I think that way the audience know where they stand with me. Some people hate me.
Yeah.
Right. I'm fine with that. I'm okay. Listen, I spend a lot of time attacking politicians and attacking political parties. That's my job, is to hold them accountable, and to do my best to ask difficult questions. Fine. If people don't like the questions I ask and you don't want to watch anymore, absolutely fine. But you know where you stand with me, and at least you know you're not going to get some lofty, Alex version of, oh, should I tiptoe around the edge of this one? And if I don't feel like I can hold someone accountable for my own biases, I'll make sure there's someone very strong in the room with me that will, because again, it's good television.
Yeah.
It's not only good television, but you want to learn something from these things. And that's why we're winning, in my opinion. And we're quite fearless about it. I mean, you don't see the BBC go into Palestine protests and asking them, what do you think about X, Y, Z? And they all get stumbled and caught, because we're just trying to expose those hypocrisies sometimes. It's interesting.
Well, Alex Armstrong, what a guy.
What a great guy, JJ. We love JJ. This is a beautiful podcast. Actually. One of the greatest espresso, they said. I'll have a double espresso next time, JJ.
Alex, thank you so much, mate.
No, my pleasure. Thanks, JJ.
Please like, share, and subscribe this. Send it to your mates. Alex Armstrong, GB News on the Daily Expresso. Bye-bye.